We're here today with Bad Wolves right before their tour. They've got a big upcoming summer tour here in a few weeks with Five Finger Death Punch and Breaking Benjamin. A lot is happening for this band. You guys are really taking off really fast, faster than you see most bands these days. How has that been for you guys? How are you processing that?
Day by day.
Day by day,
I
just
just gotta
living it?
say where we're at right now. I mean, I remember talking to the guys like, yeah, we'll probably be in a van for the first 2 years. None of that's changed. I mean, all that's changed. It's just been so fast with the release of Zombie, and everyone knows that that's a big success story at radio and sales-wise and stuff. And it's been a whirlwind. So it's just like taking it day by day and enjoying the immediate success we've had and not taking it for granted.
Talking about that success, one of the big stories this week was that you guys presented a check to Dolores, her family. Everybody knows the backstory on that if you're aware of who Bad Wolves is. Obviously, they covered Zombie, and then they donated $250,000 of those proceeds this week to the family. I know that there's been talk that the goal is you want to get to $1 million. What was that like, giving that amount of money to their family, and did they express any things to you guys personally about that?
It really wasn't about what it was like for me. I was thinking about what it was like for them the whole time. They flew in from Ireland, awkward situation to just be forced with this big check, and it's like because someone they know passed away and that they're related to. So it's just like, it's not a very celebratory moment. So but you're supposed to be like, the photo is even just strange. It's just difficult. Like, are you supposed to be smiling or are you not? Like, you don't really know how to handle it. So they didn't, but we were just talked about music. Yeah. And that was about it, And
it was just, I think, everything just felt more real. Like, it's one thing to say in like a press release, hey, we're going to give money to the family or we're going to donate some of the proceeds. But it's another thing when it's concrete.
Totally.
And they're there. And for me, it was just really important to speak with them, look them in the eye, thank them for, because the truth is, without their blessing, I don't think any of this would really be possible. Yeah. And the fact that they were there, and they wanted to support us, I think meant a lot.
They were, I imagine, obviously appreciative of it as well, but they enjoyed the cover too? Did they think were they into that kind of music, or, because the family, you don't know what they're...
We've seen emails and stuff that go back and forth that they love the song.
That's awesome.
That's
so cool.
That's about the extent of it,
Well, so talking about you guys coming out with this debut album, my understanding was, from talking to Doc, is that you guys first, you dropped Learn to Live, and this song comes out, and it just starts popping off. As soon as I heard it, I messaged you way back then, and I was like, man, you guys have really got something here. And then my understanding was you had all these songs and then all these labels, and everybody's like, oh my God, please, and they're hitting you up. Now we understand why. You guys had to rewrite some stuff, and was there pressure when like all that interest that you might not have expected came in? Because you talked about how fast it had grown. Was there pressure to say, okay, well, now we got to just start delivering all these bangers now, which you ultimately did for anyone who's listened to the album? What was that like?
Actually, the record was written before we were signed.
Really?
So
okay.
If I'm correct, I think we might have touched up a couple things, but in general, it wasn't it? No. In July.
Here's as far as I remember what happened was, essentially there was a record that was done, but because of the label we signed with, and their timeline was far out. Like, it was like 6 months from the time we signed. So what happened was we just kept writing. So the band, it wasn't that we had to write.
We also like dug up some old songs was just
like,
all right, that's what I was like, it was written, but then we put vocals on it.
And the band I just think the band just kept working. And because I think if we would have signed to a label that didn't have this much reach and this much ability to kind of put the band out there on a more commercial level, then, like I was saying, like if we would have signed with Nuclear Blast, the record might have been a little, maybe it would have been heavier, maybe it would have been different, I don't know.
That's true, right in the end there, yeah. It would behoove us not to have what 11/7 does is they just crush radio.
Yep.
So, but songs like Hear Me Now were written 4 years ago.
Yep.
So
we were developing it even
developing it a little further, but it wasn't this contrived thing like, okay, we're a radio band now. Or we have to have all these songs were always part of the melting pot that we wanted to be since the beginning.
Yeah. So, talking about was the band formed before Tommy got involved, or was that So it was kind of like, we don't really know yet who our front man's going to be, or I don't really remember. Okay, so that's cool. And
it was about 2 years before he came in.
He's like the perfect fit for the band, it seems. You know, he seems to connect with a lot of people, which is cool. You guys obviously now have sort of this interesting nexus between Five Finger Death Punch, who you're touring with on arguably the biggest tour of the summer, I would say. And, you know, how has that been? It's been cool that you have a band of that stature that's willing to just they've kind of co-signed you guys in a way. Totally. You know, they back you guys in interviews.
Sultan's our manager.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So that's really cool. Shout out to him. And so, you know, Zoltan, the guitarist of Five Finger Death Punch, having him as your manager, and then also just being tight with that group. How did that relationship form?
Through Tommy.
And we've known him for years.
We've all known him, but Tommy was the one who presented him after Learn to Live came out. We waited a little bit, and Tommy waited a little bit and showed him the video and showed him the view count, and this is what I'm doing, and he's like, this is who's in the band, and then he took interest from there. But it was Tommy and him's relationship that cemented him as a manager for that.
That's really cool. And having him as a manager, you know, does he push you guys? What's he like he seems like a real psyched up guy all the time.
He's a big picture kind of guy. Yeah. He's not the kind of guy who's going to book your flights.
Yeah.
You know, it's more about just huge branding directions with the logo and artwork, and then also fine-tuning a little bit of musical ideas on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
You know?
He seems like he knows what he's doing for sure. Talking about with this band and you guys taking off so fast, I know I'd asked you kind of what it had been like, but I'm curious, you know, you guys obviously especially knowing you have a lot of people connections in different bands and stuff like that. After, like, God forbid left, you know, and then you came out, moved out to LA, we talked about this, you know, did you notice?
Drove out to LA.
Yeah? Oh, you drove out?
Yeah, Devil Driver gave me a ride in my car down.
Wow. So
it's meant to be.
Meant to be, right?
That's cool. So, did you notice, like, people, man, you know, what's up, bro? Like, trying to reconnect with you on maybe the back of the success of the band? I always ask people, like, when being in a band that's blowing up, I wonder, do you get a lot of people that are like, what's up, man? I call them, like, or I've heard this from, I don't remember who I heard this from, but the term social climber.
Yeah, well, I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you have the success of this song is that it reaches people who are not even in the genre, the hard rock and metal world. So you just get people from high school that hit you up. You get old family members that have literally never been to a God forbid show that now they want to come to a show, and that's like no diss to them, but it's also, I think, the nature of the way social media works now is now I think we're a little more accessible.
Yeah.
You know, people are easier to find, but you know, I get a lot of this like, hey man, I'm glad you're doing music again. Yeah. Which is funny because I never
stopped.
I never stopped. But it's just it shows you there's so much going on. There's so much out there. It's really hard to get on people's radar.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I never begrudge that. It's just listen. This thing is kind of a runaway train.
Yeah.
And you can't sit there and be like, you know, if you weren't. I hate that. What's that one meme? If you weren't there during my worst times, then you're not there for my best.
You're serving my best.
Listen, I know who the real people are.
Yeah.
I know who has supported me, and I'm lucky to have a great group of friends and family. And you know, I'm just it's very different to experience. You know, obviously it's a different kind of success, but at a different point in your life because I've grinded it out and tried to get people to pay attention. Now everyone's paying attention, and I don't want to squander that. I appreciate it. You know, so if people reach out to me, great.
It's a good thing, and it's like. I think in some ways for you particularly, and you as well, lightning is struck twice. You know, it's an interesting concept there to go from being both of you in very successful bands, and then now you're in another band that will probably overshadow both of those bands. No disrespect to either one of them, but I mean, what's happening here is something that's truly special. And is there any, I mean, this isn't something you could have planned, you know, there was no strategy here.
Not
it's
at
just
all.
You guys, the right people fitting in the right situation, coming together. Have you guys talked about that? Like, just, I mean, you guys ever freak out about, you know, how this has kind of happened?
It's more like after a show sometimes or something, we'll just be like, it's working.
Yeah, like so.
Like, you know, you're just like, whoa, this is crazy.
It's like at the end of the Shinedown Five Finger tour, you're so in it every day, and then it's finally like you're on the bus, everyone's getting ready to leave, and you're just looking around and like, man, this is pretty cool, man. This is like it's, you know, because the day to day, I don't even consider it a grind because now I'm used to it.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, the way I don't let the bigness of it get to me is just focus on what I'm doing.
Totally.
So it's like, we have an acoustic performance, let's do that. We got a meet and greet, let's do that, and try and be there, be present, and not be thinking about what we're doing next week. It's just being there for each thing. But yeah, like even last week, we did the show in New York, and we had this great show, and we're like at our friend's house, and it's like me, him, and Tommy, we're like talking about the next album, and, like, and we're, you know, because it's all that stuff is the fuel that keeps you going to do the next thing.
Yeah. You guys being pros and being already sort of in the game before this all happened, did that, you think, prepare you to be able to handle the success in a certain way? Because sometimes I've seen bands, we've all seen bands where somebody has quick success and then it's like right to like getting really into drugs and drinking too much and stuff like that. I mean,
I've done the exact opposite. So, yeah, it's like I knew in 2018 January, I was like, okay, this year, like I did a little bit before Zombie came out, but I just knew that this was the most important year in my career since I was 23.
Yep.
So I basically stopped any alcohol or drug use that I was doing. Not that it was detrimental to begin with, but I was like, I basically have had a very clean run and just very focused because I knew. Then after Zombie, I was like, I made the right decision because it was chaos and just like this is happening, and just like I was just clear-headed, focused, and it's been really easy.
Yeah.
So yes.
Totally.
It's not like I had too many mistakes to learn from, though.
Yeah.
I didn't fuck up anything before.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, and I talk about this a lot on my show and my writing about having low self-esteem and using the band as a way to kind of create your sense of self-worth. And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because when the band's doing well, you feel great, but when the band starts falling off, then you lose that sense. And so I spent years just trying to become a complete human being that wasn't relying on the validation of others. I could get, have a sense of myself without that. So now all this stuff is more like a bonus. Mm-hmm. It's not like I don't need to do the show. I've done all the biggest tours. I've done all this stuff. So it's not about that. It's about, hey man, let's put on a really good show. Let's make this crowd think it's the best show they've ever seen, and kind of climbing that hill every day and like trying to play a little better than you did yesterday. That's like the fun part.
You guys are growing and have grown so much. We've talked a lot about, and I guess a lot of people have talked about how well Five Finger Death Punch has been doing. You guys knew them before, and now you've recently toured with them. You're going to be touring with them again. Those guys, it's like probably a different scenario being around them now. With everybody basically being sober, and I just want to say, like, prime example of like, things might get tough in the past, but the things they've been able to overcome. What's it been like seeing those guys through that situation?
Recently talking to Chris Cale, you just have a conversation about his life, and he just tells you the kind of ringer he went through, and you're like, wow, cool, but it can happen to anybody. It can happen to an accountant. It can happen. It doesn't. I don't think being a rock star really matters.
I think that's what makes it so relatable to people too, is because that is what everyone goes through, and
so you can find anyone to have that conversation with about having rough times. They're a machine, It's cool to see how much success they have, and we're thankful to kind of ride those coattails on tour for sure.
Well, but I mean, something that I kind of take away from them is that they're this band that's kind of they've been this kind of huge band for a while, but they're like really in this like very small group of metal bands that have reached this kind of level, right? And I think people have this idea of what it means to quote unquote make it, right? And that once I make it, then this problem's gonna be solved. And the truth is, and this is not because I have made it or anything, but I've done enough, reading and learning about people who have, is that there's no great answers once you just kind of get new problems. And if you think you're going to find the answer to what's wrong or the hole that's missing in your life, it's not going to be there just because you're successful, just because you made a bunch of money, just because there's a bunch of people that love you. We've seen it with, celebrities who have, passed away and with drugs or maybe suicide, stuff that there's always going to be things you need to reach and other things. It's like, this is just, I think the real problem is feeling like there's going to be a finish line. Yeah. Oh, when I get here, then it's over and I can kind of, and it's like, no, man, it's just life just keeps going, man.
Yes.
You have to find every day something that gets you up in the morning, something that gets you pumped up, something that keeps you inspired.
And you know, and we were talking before this interview started about, you know, touring and how I'm like, oh, I'm too anxious to do that. You know, I'm, you know, maybe too depressed sometimes to do that. But one of the things that is interesting when I see bands like you guys who are excelling so much, it's almost like you approach it from like an athletic standpoint. You mentioned going out there and putting on the best show that time. I imagine, you know, I'm not even a Patriots fan, but, you know, Tom Brady doesn't plan for 2 seasons from now. He's focused on game by game by game. And, you know, you guys go out there and just sort of attempt to put on the best show you can that day and then take it as it goes in the, you know, a few weeks from then. You guys are probably going to have a real busy touring schedule coming up, I imagine.
Oh, yes.
We talked about this off camera, but, you know, is it a bummer to be away from home? That's one of the things I always try to ask people, because for me, I feel like it would be. I don't know that I would be able to do that, despite the cool things about it.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. No.
Yeah, it depends on the individual and what
Yeah.
their situation is. Are they married? Do they have a girlfriend? Do they have kids? Mine is wide open.
Yeah.
So and I knew that. I put all my stuff in storage, and you know, I recently got divorced, so it's just I'm wide open. So
Yeah.
it's very stress free for me.
Good
Yeah.
for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, and Doc's, you know, he's got a girlfriend. He's very mature. He's
Yeah.
a thoughtful man. You know, like
Very.
what am I trying to say? Like,
Well,
he doesn't seem to be struggling out here
No,
with the fact
because-
that we're gonna be out for 6
Well,
months.
because, you know, I think this is what happens a lot of people when they go on tour, is that maybe they have a wife at home, maybe they have, you know, they've essentially been domesticated to a certain degree, and so, you know, they think about, well, I'm here, so I'm missing this. And I think that's a really bad way to look at it, is that you have to acclimate to the environment you're in. You want to make your, you know, with the tools you have, try and make your day the best day it can be.
Yes.
Do I miss my girlfriend? Yes. Does she miss me? Yes. But if I sit there and focus on that, then I'm
Yep.
gonna have bad days, right?
Yep.
What's the point of that? The point is accept this is the
I
reality.
need to hire you as my therapist.
No, but what I'm saying, but you have to accept that this is the reality. But if you're here and if your mind and your heart is somewhere else, then you're gonna be fragmented. You're gonna be not at ease.
Yeah.
You know, and the key is just kind of like it's, you know, I was just starting to, like I said, life comes at you in waves.
Yep.
And people will always try and fight
The way.
the current. So like,
Comes in waves.
You gotta let this.
Yeah,
So you gotta
let
go.
this wave ride.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
You have to. No, but it's about kind of this submitting thing. Maybe that's like some Buddhist stuff. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to submit to what the situation is, and it's when you're fighting it. That's when you're gonna be like you have all this different.
Yeah, like when we started, I remember the first 3 weeks we were in a van with like no crew, pretty much. We had a sound guy, and I was like driving the van, and I was smoking a cigarette. It was like 3 a.m. I've been driving for how long, you know? And I was like, could not be happier.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and because I was prepared for this, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And you go through.
And having been on a bus and had all this crew and making money and all, you know, before,
Yep.
it was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I'm so glad that having gone through all of that, you're in a place now where you guys are just obviously going through so much success, and you know, also mature enough to deal with it. Sometimes
It's gratitude. The gratitude is the main thing. Is every day I try and just take a moment and just say, you know what, I'm thankful, and not thankful for all this. Thankful for the basic stuff.
Yep.
Did I eat today? Oh yeah. Do I have
Yep.
a roof over my head? Yeah. Am I sick? No.
Yeah.
Those are do I have friends and family that care about me? These are the things that are important. Everything else is just bonus.
That's my journey this year is trying to minimize my ego as much as humanly possible, you know, and that's been a struggle for me personally is and I'm not saying I had a big ego, but that is where the problems lie, you know. It's like too with people, it's like, you know, one of the things that, you know, people on tour and stuff, it's like the temptation of that, you know, you're in this band and you're, you know, you've got the hottest song on the radio right now, and then the temptation that comes with that sucks, you know, because it's like it's an unwinnable situation in some cases, and you know.
I don't find much temptation. Like,
yeah, really, it doesn't.
if you want it, you'll go find that
Yeah.
temptation. But if you're not looking for it, it's just
Yeah.
normal.
I think
life.
we've gotten
Yeah.
so much out of our systems
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
that we don't need the quote unquote party or this kind of particular kind of excitement. It's fun to like have a night. Oh, let's go out. Let's have some fun together
Yeah.
tonight. But the truth is, you know, and this is like the kind of athletic thing you said about just the maintenance it
Yeah.
takes for us to just be functional and do a good job, we can't do all that stuff that we used to do. We would just be tired. We would be miserable. And the thing is, it's like health. Like you see out here, we got the juicer, we got the blender, we got the everyone's out here really. When we're pushing 40 in a couple years.
That's the mark of winners, though, man. It's the people who are focusing on their health and stuff like that. So when you have those
still ripping cigarettes too much though.
Yeah, that's a battle that my dad has fought. I've cut carbs entirely. I used to be way fatter. I used to drink too much. I hardly drink at all, and I'm on like the keto trendy diet, but it actually works for me. So
good works.
But look, Bad Wolves, do not miss them on this current headlining run. And also the upcoming tour with Five Finger Death Punch, Breaking Benjamin, correct?
And Nothing More.
And Nothing More as well. Don't forget about Nothing More.
Great
God, yeah, that's
sick band.
I love that band. And so, is there anything else coming up? Don't announce anything unless you want to.
We have another tour, but I don't think it's ready for.
We have 2 other tours that we're.
You'll probably be playing the rest of the year, though. It's safe to say one way or another.
Looks like we're gonna have like a month off, maybe or so. But we're gonna be playing for the rest of the year. All the way.
We're basically booked till like Christmas.
Wow. So. Well, congratulations. So keep an eye out on Bad Wolves and what they have coming up. And thanks so much for watching, and thanks for doing this, dudes. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yep.